podcast.
Bring your friends!
All right. Welcome to the Rico podcast. We're gonna switch it up a little bit because we brought Richard's wife. She never shows up.
She does exist.
She does exist.
This is Bridget.
For a long time, I didn't know she did exist. She would just float in and out of the room. I was like, "Are you?" So
I want to make a clarification. This is Bridget, not Brigitte.
Did I say Brigitte?
Brigitte. No. I'm just clarifying because I know there's people who message us asking who is Brigitte, and Brigitte is my side chick. But she looks like Bridget, sounds like Bridget,
And goes to college.
and goes to college. Just the only difference. Everything else is the same. Thank you. So what are we doing today?
So pay attention to the Girls Gone Wild video later.
God damn it. It'll just be me going like this and Bridget throwing dollars at me.
What are you talking about? Our Saturdays?
That's a lot of dollars, but I'm going to interview Richard. It's when it happened, and I've already had some questions already ready, and probably a lot of you have already had these questions. And of course, the first one is: it's true that your father wanted you to grow up to be bi, right?
Jesus fucking Christ! Oh God, my dad listens to this area. Oh fuck. No.
Bilingual.
Yes.
Bilingual.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't think. Okay. My mind is like in serious mode, so I didn't realize that's what you were doing. It's like, yeah. My mind was in serious mode. So yeah. My dad taught me. My dad didn't really teach me Spanish. What my dad did was, he had this thing where I had to read every day, but it had to be in English, and the TV had to be in English and everything, because his thing was like, you need to be bilingual. Like, he was like fucking like nails with that shit. And if I found a word that I didn't know, then our thing was, you have to go find it in a dictionary. Because that way you know what the definition is.
You had a Spanish English dictionary?
Yes, I had a Spanish English dictionary, and then I had a Webster's dictionary, and then I had a Royal Academy dictionary. Because the thing was, and I still do, you've seen me do this, where I carry like a little black notebook, and sometimes you'll say something, I go, what the fuck? And I'll write it down, and then I'll write the definition. So I want the definition in English and in Spanish, because that way I understand in what context it could possibly happen.
Now that's a little bit different, because whenever you say Spanish, but Puerto Rican, Spanish, and Mexican are different dialects.
So before we keep going, let everybody know what we're about to do, what we're going to talk about, because I know you're going to interview me, but there's probably, well, no, you did. That's my bad. Well,
everybody knows that he did a lot of translations and did some stuff up in Boston and human trafficking. So the human trafficking is what we're going to focus on, and that he's going to focus on the drugs after the interview.
Jesus, no. So to answer your question, so what was your question about the different dialects of Spanish?
So you couldn't just use English. I mean, the Webster dictionary wouldn't actually necessarily be correct for the word you're looking for, because like milk, for instance, is not the same in Spanish as in Mexico, or Mexican Spanish as in Puerto Rican Spanish.
No, leche. Leche stays the same.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I just picked a random word,
right? Like
maybe
meat, carne de res, steak, or like pollo. Pollo. Pollo is pollo. Pollo is just chicken. But normally when I say pollo and I say it to a Hispanic person, what they think it is like grilled, right? Like grilled, because we grill a lot in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Because think about it, like it's always.
There's always a hurricane.
Damn it, Eric.
So
you grill a lot in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. I never got to. God damn it! I knew this was
the one who. Okay.
I don't grill. I never.
He doesn't know.
I'm Puerto Rican.
No,
he doesn't know how to handle his meat. That's all.
No, that is not. God damn it! I knew this was gonna happen when I got you two here. So the thing is like back home, like mom didn't let me cook. Because like mom's thing is like she likes to cook and stuff like that, and then I never learned how to cook. But like if you go to places that you'll go to like a restaurant, they have a grill outside.
Yeah.
They're just fucking grilling. Yeah. Like that's a common thing to do. Because it's always sunny and shit like that. That's what happens. But yeah, no, that to answer your question, so at that point in time, I didn't understand that there was other you know, this was like pre-internet too, like for the people listening. I knew there was a world map, obviously, and I knew that there was other countries and other continents and other places that they speak Spanish, but I didn't understand that it was like different, right? Like at a young age, I kind of understood like, oh, slang. Like I understand slang, you know,
Yeah.
because like in Puerto Rico, we call, like if you go to like a bad place and you hear somebody saying, por ahí viene el agua, like here comes the water, they're talking about cops, right?
Okay.
But if you don't understand the context of the situation, then you're not going to understand what the fuck I'm talking about. And that I learned that years later, like colloquialism and all that stuff when I joined the army and like when I started traveling and stuff and I started meeting pen pals and people and stuff like that.
Believe it or not, that happens in English speaking countries because even though Great Britain speaks English, not all the words,
English.
the Queen's English, and there's Cockney English, but just because they say a word doesn't mean it's the same thing.
Yeah, and that happens a lot to me. Like I'll hear something like, you know, we were just talking about Chris Thrall, who's British, right?
Yes.
Which shout out to him. If you haven't seen my episode, go see it because I'm ecstatic to be on it.
He's very happy. He's bragging about it all day.
So his English, like sometimes what I have to do when I'm talking to someone that has a thick accent, right? I listen to the enunciation. I don't really listen to like what you're saying. I'm listening to the enunciation and analyzing.
Yeah.
Because if I listen to what you're saying, so like
enunciate.
I'm sorry, enunciation.
Enunciate.
Enunciation.
Enunciation.
You're fucking saying it right. God damn it. So I listen to that. And then what I'm also doing is at the same time while listening, in case there's a word or something, I'm trying to figure out in the context of the conversation, like what he's saying. So like they call tea and all that other stuff, like they have different names for it, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, okay, I think it means this. And a lot of times it's a shot in the dark. Like you and I had that issue in the beginning when we first met.
We still have that issue.
It hasn't gone away. It hasn't gone up.
5-6 years strong, and yeah.
Like what? Like what?
Like not there. Not there.
Hot tamales. Not the food, the candy.
Yeah, but that's fucking weird. Who names a candy hot to what the fuck? I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
It's a large red hot.
It's a
whatever. It's a chewy red hot.
It's
red
a
hot,
chewy.
yeah. Red hot,
Yeah. But no, that's how like language is too. Like language is just there's a lot of things that happen, and it's just I learned very hard and very fast that like that changes.
Yeah.
I kind of like, to be honest with you, like I knew I had good English when I first came to the States. Like when I first landed and I started talking with everybody and like I, you know, because I came to the States, I moved to the States. Sorry, I visited before, but it was just with family. Yeah. And I was a kid, so like not a lot of people are talking to me, you know. I'm not socializing as a kid. But like when I joined the army, that was one of like my biggest fears. I was like, fuck, is my English gonna be good? Am I gonna be able to like understand like things? And dude, by God, basic, I had no issues whatsoever. Like none whatsoever. And that's when I was like, oh, my language skills are pretty fucking
believe
solid.
it or not, we had a guy who didn't know a lick of English. He was of Spanish descent. He didn't know a lick of English. He made it halfway through boot camp.
Oh wow.
And
that's impressive.
They asked him how, you know, they had a translator ask him how he got through there. He goes, I just did what everybody else did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's impressive.
Just watch.
Well, the army has a program for that. The army has a program that they teach you English.
I'm just surprised you didn't see that in the army.
Yeah, like in the no, dude, no, I didn't. Actually, I was like I remember I used to have problems all the time because I'd be like, hey, I need to take January this off, and they're like, no, that's not vacation time. I go, yeah, but we celebrate 3 Holy Kings in Puerto Rico. Yeah, and like I remember the first time I did that, they were like, oh, you need a passport. And I kind of like, and it was a fucking, no, I'm not playing. It was a fucking first sergeant. And my leader, bless his heart, Sergeant Billy Joe Charles, he was like looking at the first sergeant, like his eyes, and I'd never seen Sergeant Charles go like that. And I've seen Sergeant Charles see some weird shit in Iraq. And his eyes just wider and he goes, First Sergeant, Puerto Rico is part of the United States. He goes, no, because he's leaving the country. And Sergeant Charles is like, First Sergeant, yeah, he does have to do his anti-terrorism because he's leaving the mainland, but he's really not leaving the country. Yeah. And the first one just kept on. And then fucking like JAG got called and everything and was like, hey, no. And then like I got asked if I wanted to make a report, I guess.
complaint.
A complaint? Yeah, well, in the Army and
It's
the
a
Navy, it's the same.
grievance,
It's a
basically.
grievance. Yeah, we call them grievances, not a complaint. Grievances, and I was like, no, like he just didn't know better. Like, why would I be so mad? But now, like, I'm out in the civilian sector, and I'm like, oh, you people are just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
You
what's
see
the
that
fuck?
more often than not.
We
Yeah.
actually had to do the same thing when we went to Hawaii.
Really? Yeah, you have to do your AT, your anti-terrorism training.
All that stuff.
Yeah, you have to do everything. You have to make sure
We
you
were
have
staying
shots.
in the US. We were flying over, but
Yeah,
so
but
we weren't have a layover somewhere else. We went
yeah,
from California to Hawaii, and
Yeah.
and we still had to fill it out. It's like, well, we're not gonna. It's a direct flight. We're not taking a detour.
yeah, because of it's just the way things are, man. Like when we eventually go to Puerto Rico, like she'll see that it's like, hey, you have to get searched, and they have dogs and all this other shit. Because
Yeah,
it's like,
they put the TSA.
yeah, TSA definitely
Puts 'em to
like
shame.
they
It's like-
put some work whenever you're traveling outside of the continental
Yeah, you're
US.
not
Like I'll say
sneaking a
that.
bag of cocaine through there.
So we're
I
gonna
mean, you can
hide-
get one in the White House, so I don't
In
know
the
why
White
TSA.
So hide it on the kid, not yourself.
So no,
Yeah.
Jesus Lord.
Oh, if it's in
Oh
the
my
baby powder,
God.
would they know?
No. Oh my God, no, don't do that. Don't do any of that.
No, I don't.
So what else you got for me? It's gonna get crazy.
Anyway, so if everybody knows you were in the Army and you did some stuff over there,
Mhm.
but when did you actually start doing translating? It was when you got to Boston is when you actually started doing translations.
So I had gone to a school called Abelardo Martinez Otero, which is in Arecibo.
Mhm.
And that school is what's called a business high school, is what it was called.
Okay.
And whenever you went to that school, it was like very difficult to get in because you would leave with a certificate, which at the time I didn't think it was anything, but like I graduated with a data entry clerk certification. Like I knew, you've seen me type, like I
Yeah.
can look at you and type. Like
Yeah.
I learned that in school, and then I also learned how to be an interpreter from the teacher that I had.
Mhm.
So what happened was that I was always failing the English exams on purpose
Mhm.
because I didn't want to take advanced English because you had to read. And I was like, this is fucking stupid. Like, I don't need to read a book and analyze a book. That's just dumb. That's what we do in Spanish.
Yeah.
So like, I should have, looking back now, because I would have been able to read like all the Moby Dick stories and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And I probably would have been better informed. But what ended up happening was this teacher caught on to it, and it was me and another friend of mine named Lorraine. And she took us, and that teacher used to be an interpreter herself. And then she took us, she was a legal interpreter, and then she took us under her wing. And for 3 years, she was our English teacher. That
Oh,
was it. And
okay.
then, because you had English 1 and English 2, and then I had an English 1 teacher that they both communicated, and they're like, hey, that motherfucker, like he fakes it. So I started doing translations there. I actually did a trip to Florida to Disney for FBLA, and I was the translator. Like I was the
Oh.
interpreter. I'm sorry, interpreter. I was the interpreter the whole time, and like literally for like 18 people. And then when I joined the Army, I got my DLPT because we had a couple situations where people would get pulled over and they had something on them and they would play the language game, and they needed someone that was like certified. And then when I got to Boston, what happened was it was an internship. And then from that internship, when they saw that I had certificates as an interpreter, they were like, oh, for sure you're gonna go to this other place, which I don't barely talk about it, but it was like, yeah, I went to do some other stuff. But then that's where I started translating, was in school, in high school.
Okay. Now, just to be clear, you're
Mhm.
interpreting and you're translating are
Mhm.
two different, is two different things.
Yeah. So interpreting, and it's funny because I've never explained this to you. You're one of my best friends. So interpreting is the oral spoken language, right? Translating is the written. So like
Okay.
that's what and then you have like different specialties in there where it's like colloquialisms and transcreations and all this other stuff where it's like it can get a little crazy. Like video games. Video games are really difficult to translate sometimes because
Yeah.
they make up like, like a Final Fantasy game. How are you gonna translate Ultima Magic?
Yeah.
Ultima Magia, that means the last magic. So you have to look at the word like, what does Ultima mean? Well, Ultima is from Latin. Oh, well, what does it mean in Latin? Oh, then okay, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
Like,
But yeah, whenever because there's like, I don't know what you call it, but it's like on the spot translations, like when you went.
like
those
what
times
I've
when
done.
you went to court.
So that's
somebody's talking and you're repeating while they're
correct.
talking.
So that's called
So-
simultaneous interpretation. That means that
Okay.
one person talks and it's also called whisper interpreting.
Whisper
Like I do that
interpreting.
with her. Like if my family talks, like my family will be talking and I'll be next to her going, "Taka, taka, 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 taka," and I'll be interpreting.
That's
what they're
literally what I hear.
So
saying.
you don't hear durka, durka, durka.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God. That's so horrible.
Yeah, he does the same thing to me. He's like durka, durka, durka.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like-
I'm like, what?
I
Man,
love a snack bar.
Snack bars.
there's a snack bar. Where's the snack bar?
Yeah, so that does that answer your question?
Yeah, because that's when you actually officially started doing
I got my
for
first
for the government actually.
for the government was when I started my business in 2017.
Well, I meant because you were still in were you still in the army when you were in Boston?
Mm-mm, mm-mm. This was
Okay.
after
You got out,
This is after I got
and
out.
then you
yeah.
got then you went to Boston.
And then I went to Boston. Then I came back shortly after.
Okay.
And then when I came back for a while, what I did was I competed in jujitsu again. So
Oh, that's
like,
right.
yeah. So
'cause
like,
you
but
actually went out to California.
yeah, I went to Cali how many times? Like I went to Cali like 3 or 4 times
Yeah.
for like to compete in Pan Ams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
2 times I was injured because I did some dumb stuff during trying to cut weight, and I injured a rib, and then the other time I got sick, like really badly sick. And then the other 2 times like I went to compete and stuff like that. So and then one time I went and I stayed at Coyotero's gym for a month and a half. Yeah, for like a month and a half. I slept in the attic.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah,
You had
yeah,
a bunch of spiders up there.
Yeah, that's how I got rid of my fear of spiders.
Yeah.
Was I would wake up in the attic of the gym at like 5 and I would just like scream and like my heart rate would go up. So by the time people would show up to train, I had already like, mopped the mops and shit. And people are like, oh man, you've been working out already, because I was just covered in fucking sweat.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but it's called exposure therapy.
Dude, I didn't know what it was. I know that when I came back, like I remember Sean threw a spider at me and I just kind of grabbed it and just like threw it out. And he was just like, what the fuck just happened here? Like, but yeah, I used to be terrified of spiders, like terrified. Like I would like scream, like straight up scream and hide. And then I stayed at Kyle's for like a month and a half, and like thanks to that,
Not
like, I
that
got
Kyle has a spider problem or anything.
not that Kyle. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm trying to say that Coyotero's Academy. God damn it. Yeah, let me clarify this. I'm not trying to say that Coyotero's Academy has a spider problem. All I'm saying is that when you
The
sleep in the attic, obviously,
Spiders
you're
like to go up.
yes. Spiders like to stay in cool places, and California's hot as shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like the dopest thing. And still, like every day, I do an exercise where I pick 5 words. And I pick 5 words and I write them in Spanish and I translate them and then I use them in sentences. Like I still do that every fucking day. Like I
Yeah.
never lost that from my dad, unfortunately.
Well, it's only 5 words.
Yeah, but like if you think about that, 5 words, and then 365 days.
That's
Like
a lot
you-
of, yeah, that's a lot of words.
That's a fucking lot, right? And then I do them in English and in Spanish, and now I started doing them in Portuguese sometimes, like
Oh,
just so I
okay.
can like familiarize myself. And eventually I'll add Japanese, like eventually as years go by.
So you like anime, but you didn't call it anime language. You call it ninja language when you started your company.
Oh yeah, so I call it Language Ninja Solutions.
Okay,
Yeah,
excuse me, I
but
had
it's
it
the Language
backwards.
Ninja, which I own. I own that. Like,
Yes.
I am the Language Ninja.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's
If you
what I've
use that,
heard.
I can send you a cease and fucking desist. Like that's what people don't understand, and I really don't. Like I just don't care. Like I just don't give a fuck.
Don't listen to him. He does care.
No,
He'll
no.
sue your ass off. You try and use his. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Eric actually has a funny story about one time someone from Springfield. You want to tell what happened? Like
Oh,
that's how
yeah.
much respect I had in the language
Yeah, because
business.
there was actually a company that was going to come in and move in and do language, and there's like, we're going to go up Springfield and set up an office. And they said, you can't go there. And they said, why not? He goes, that's ninja country.
So the reason he knows that is because a dude called me and he told me that he told these people this, and I put it on speaker. We were in the car, and Eric hears it, and he's like, "Holy shit! Fucking Richard's a goddamn ninja, fucking ninja."
You can't go there. It's ninja.
Yeah, it's
country.
ninja country.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just because I kind of like my whole ordeal with business is I try to be like as useful as I can,
Mhm.
because I know that in the interpreting world, like first of all, the interpreting world is dominated by women. Like well over 60% of the interpreters that are certified are females.
See, that's why I would get it.
Bridget loves it because I get hit on. I get hit on classes sometimes, and it is awkward as fuck when it happens.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Like awkward as fuck. Because it's never like, I think you're cute. Could I buy you dinner? It's like, my cousin's niece, grandmother, fifth removed says you're cute, and she'd like to know if you're happily married. And I'm like, I am very happily married. And I just see Bridget in the corner with a gun, just looking at me while I ride. So it's just like,
Yeah.
is that not true?
No, I don't have a gun.
You, I don't have a gun.
You picked up the eye twitch from him.
He
He does
Good
that.
eye twitch.
He does. He
He does
does.
have a good eye
Most
twitch.
people don't know that about me because no one's ever seen it. Like
Oh.
only
No?
people who know.
I was-
Actually, no one's ever like, God damn it. Like no one's like,
That's true.
this-
Usually on that, usually on that,
Yeah.
yeah, because he's on that side
Yeah,
and it's this eye.
It
or
is.
Actually,
yeah, but it's never happened
Yeah.
like while I'm podcasting. It's normally like other
actually
things. Like most
happened
people,
a couple times.
yeah,
but
you
you're
probably
away from
can't
the-
seen it.
You
Yeah.
can't see
Or
it.
I go like this.
Oh,
If I
yeah.
go like
Yeah.
this, yeah, if you see me go like this, tricks of the trade, by the way. And by the way,
Hmm.
speaking of like that stuff like that, people that message us, there's people who message us asking us what we wear and stuff like that. If we wear makeup, we do not wear
They
makeup.
do.
No, God damn
It
it.
takes them an hour to get ready.
No, what we do is we started using like this thing
Well,
called
it's-
Lumen, right?
Lumen.
It's like Lumen.
Yeah.
We started using this thing called Lumen, and like Eric like had a big I think like not as much as the difference as me, but like you could tell the difference like with the bags in your eyes.
Mhm.
Like for me, this used to be like brown. That was another reason why I was like glad we didn't do video in the beginning because I was so self-conscious about how brown it was. And like then
Yeah,
it's
that was
like
the brownest part of you.
Yeah.
yeah, literally it was. Yeah,
No, it
back in the
was,
day,
yeah,
it was.
it
And
was.
like they completely got rid of it. And now they have like a corrector that you can use.
Mhm.
And then they have the you use, I think, what is it that you use?
We use the it's Lumen, but it's a roll on. I forget what it is. You know, it's got the
Yeah,
it's
the
like-
the aging thing. The age,
The
it's the
wrinkle.
aging,
what
the
it
wrinkle.
is?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
wrinkle
that
thing.
wrinkle.
Yeah, the wrinkle thing. And it, dude, my God, I used to make fun of people for using that shit, but it fucking works. Like I hate to admit it, but it
And
works.
the other reason we do that is because Maybelline wouldn't sponsor us.
Oh.
Lumen doesn't sponsor us. Yeah.
No, yet. Yeah.
They both have a bigger skincare routine than I do.
We do.
Actually, we do.
They're more high maintenance.
But yeah, no, the trick of the
Yeah,
trade, if your eye twitches, you can just go like this and like
Look like
pretend,
you're serious.
yeah, like you're serious for a moment, right? And you stretch it and like you'll know. Now people are gonna know. Yeah, no one knows.
So
There's only like a handful of people who know about that.
yeah,
Now
so
everybody.
if he touches his eye,
Yeah.
that means his eye is twitching and he's ready to kill. So
No, I know.
No, that's the smile.
No,
You
that's-
guys
oh,
have
that's
to-
true. That's the smile. That's
Mhm.
the
You've told that story. Have you? You've told the after the comedy club thing, I think.
oh
Think you
yeah.
have. Yeah,
yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah, there's weird things about me like that. Like most people don't know when I cross my hands like this is because I'm nervous. Like when my hands are like this or when I'm like this, I'm like relaxed. But normally when I'm like this is because I'm nervous.
Okay.
Like it's just little things like that that people like. And again, like most people, they've never seen me upset either. Like I
Yeah.
would dare say like no one outside of like 10 people have ever seen me like pissed off. I'm always goofy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know.
But anyway, you started the language ninja
Mhm.
after you got back from Boston, and then
2
why
years
did-
afterwards.
because that was
2017.
you were done with your competing.
Yeah, I was not so much done
It was the tail
competing.
end of your competing.
It was a tail end of like me competing because I started to have like a ton of injuries and yeah, I think like maybe 8 people know this. Like I had a neck injury. Like you
Mhm.
didn't know this. I had a neck injury where what was it that it was called?
It was cervical stenosis. It was
Yeah.
a narrowing of his spinal column in the upper.
Yeah, in the C's, I think it's
the
called or
C-
whatever.
I think C.
And like I
three and
couldn't
C4.
do
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
couldn't do this. And
Yeah.
it was scary because I would also like there was a few times that I had seizures because like your neck locks and like you'll come to and you're just exhausted.
Oh,
You're
really?
like, oh,
I
what
didn't-
happened? And then one time I was the reason I found that out was because one time I was on FaceTime with someone and it happened. And like I came to like it would be like a short seizure, like maybe 5 or 10 seconds. And I'd
Mhm.
come to and the person was like, oh my God, you just had a seizure. And then like after that, like we went to the doctor and figured everything out. And they told me it was because of my neck. So like I had to stop training.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to
Okay.
stop training. So I started my business then, and still haven't made money. So I mean
But did you want to talk about
Mhm.
because you were doing for the state or the county or the city? How did that work
You
out?
can ask me about any of that. That's all open now. I know you're scared to ask me about that, but we can talk about that. Like, what do you want to know specifically?
So you-
Okay.
yeah, you
No,
used
go
to
ahead,
do
because
s-
you
yeah,
heard
so
some
you
of
used
these.
to do CPS cases,
Mhm.
and some pretty not great things.
But you didn't know about them in the
No,
beginning.
be-
You care to tell how that happened?
At the beginning, when we met, he said he was a interpreter translator. Great, fantastic, that's amazing. And we were driving somewhere, and he got a call, and it was a CPS worker who needed him to translate some information to a person on the phone. And
I was like,
granted, I didn't know anything what he was saying, didn't know,
well, but you knew the
but I
English
heard what
part.
the English part.
Yeah.
It was basically CPS worker calling to tell this woman that the person she thought was her kid's dad was in fact not her kid's dad, and that they didn't know who the kid's dad was now. And so that person hung up, and
All you heard was like a fight in the background, and I
Oh,
could
I would
could
imagine.
kind of hear
Yeah.
what was said. It was like, you son of a bitch, and then I repeat, you son of a, and then they hung up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I told the CPS lady, I go, I'm not alone. She's like, that's all right, they can sign an NDA. And like, that was an awkward ride back. Yeah.
'cause I thought it was like banking and
Schools.
school
No,
stuff.
you didn't start out trying to do CPA or
CPS.
child recovery
Child trafficking.
or child trafficking. You didn't start out trying to do that. It just kind of you open it up and it just kind of
You kind of
that's the
fell
business
into
kind
it
of
that it
What ended up happening was that I got a call one morning. This is how I broke into this. I got a call one morning. It was like 2 a.m, and actually we were like not together, but we were friends at that point. And I got a call at 2 a.m, and I walk outside because she had fallen asleep and stayed. And I was like, oh crap, like she can't hear this, because it was like my business line. And I walk outside, and it's this church, and they go, hey, we have a kid here that is a runaway, and they only speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, no problem. I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, how did you find my number? And they go, we Googled you. We just Googled Spanish translator, and you were the first thing that popped up. And I was like, oh shit, good for Google, you know?
There you go. Google did
And-
something right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the first thing the girl says is, help me, I'm being sold, like someone's trying to sell me. And I was like, all right, like you guys need to stop right now. This needs to pause. You need to go call the cops. And then like a couple hours later, like I got called by the PD, and they needed me to go down.
Yeah.
And that's when like everything started. Like they read me in, and like then after that, they told someone else, and they told like another attorney, and then that attorney told, and then it got out of hand.
Mhm.
But what most people don't know is that a lot of that stuff, like I did pro bono, because like a lot of that, like the attorneys, and she was witnessed this, like a church, like, oh hey man, we just don't have the money, and da and it's for the state, you're doing a good thing. So I was like, at that time, the way I looked at it at that time was, well, I'm starting my business, I don't mind doing some free stuff, especially this kind of stuff that's gonna give me a lot of experience,
Mhm.
because I had already dealt with like drugs and stuff, and I already dealt with gangs, and I dealt with like drug trafficking and stuff.
And that was when you were in Boston.
That was when I was in Boston, like in the army. Like in the army, there was a lot of drug trafficking, man.
Oh yeah.
A lot, like a
I-
lot. I don't know how it was in the Navy, but when I was in the army, bro, you could throw a rock and there was someone doing coke, someone doing meth, someone doing weed. Like it was just fucking wild. Like
Well, we had mostly the most memorable ones I have was the guys doing coke, because
coke, yeah.
I don't know why it was so. It seemed like it was popular because the guy just made rank. He made E7.
But
Just
why
made
coke?
E7, and of course he denied it.
Yeah,
And of course they did it.
Watch the mic.
No, of
No,
course
you're good.
they did the P test again, and he must have done a lot of coke because he popped again. I was like,
Yeah,
because
that's normal out of your system within less than a week.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if he was hitting bumps through the week, and that's why it was still in the system. Anyway, so it's E7.
Mm.
They're going to kick him out, but they bust him down to 5 and like E5 and like tar. I was like, he knows somebody.
Yeah,
He knows
dude.
something
But
or
he
somebody.
Or
lost,
he knows something that
but he lost a lot of money though. Like that's
he
the
did.
thing. He probably
he
lost a
did.
lot of money.
So,
No, man. So that's how I got into that. And like that was just one case. I had another case where it was 2 girls that was a similar situation. And like that was like a big one because that case they tried to keep it under wraps. And at one point, I think it was either that case or there was another case where I was walking outside the courthouse. And obviously, like I'm with, the kids.
yeah.
Like whenever they're I'm right there. However, I don't stay with the kids unless the CPS worker was there. Like never. That's one thing that
So
I
you're
was
not
like,
you're not actually
never.
chaperone. You're just there.
No.
for-
I'm
for
the fucking interpreter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's it.
The C
Yeah.
CPA's there,
The
and
CPS
you're
worker.
or CPS work. You're there with the CPS.
Yeah, I'm
worker.
with the CPS
You're
worker.
not
No,
escorting them
bro.
by yourself.
No, bro.
Okay.
No, I am the interpreter. That is it. I didn't.
Okay.
You don't talk to me. That's why I say language ninja. Because what people don't understand is, I'll give you an example. Right? Have you ever seen the pictures of Trump whenever he visits other countries and he's with dignitaries?
Yeah.
They're always what? In chairs like this, leaning on each other, right?
Yeah.
You ever notice how they crop the side? You know why? Because the
there's-
fucking interpreter's in there with a notebook and writing with one hand and going, oh, what did he say earlier? And then the interpreter has to like go back. Oh, he said this. So like you don't see that. That's why I
Yeah.
say interpreters are like fucking ninjas. Like
Okay.
you don't see the amount. Interpreters, you need interpreters to do marketing. Like Virgin Mobile, T-Mobile, what's the other company that's doing Spanish ones? We have it. It starts with a V.
Well, all the cellular companies.
Verizon has
cellular
been doing
companies,
Spanish
yeah.
commercials,
Yeah.
and you need interpreters for that. The thing is the problem with interpreters is that people don't really respect the profession because they think that someone who speaks the language can do what we do, and that's
well,
not true.
I blame the
Actually, the UN has really strict like it's really hard to be a UN interpreter. Like your shit has to be, because you have to have a TSI. Because you gotta understand, you're gonna hear things. Because you gotta understand, bro, when they're by themselves and the cameramen aren't there, the president still needs an interpreter. How many times?
That's true.
I guarantee you, if we had an interpreter in here, and it was like maybe 30 years, or maybe after, God forbid, one of the recent in the past 20 years president dies.
Mhm.
I guarantee you, if you put one of those interpreters here, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, there is some shit
Oh,
that
yeah.
was said." Like, bro, I know things that for ethical reasons I don't share, right? Like,
Yeah.
I won't put the person on blast for ethical reasons, right? Because that's part of the ethics of being an interpreter.
Yeah.
But like, I know a lot more shit than I care to know, unfortunately, because people say everything. Like, she's seen it when people just start talking, and I'm like, they're talking about this.
Yeah.
Or they're saying this. Like, I'm paying attention to everything, man.
Yeah.
Like, if you've seen it when we used to do shows in Kansas,
Yeah.
and they would speak in English or Portuguese, and it'd be like, they're talking about this, and you're like, this is nice.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you said, this is nice.
And my interpreter.
Yeah.
I felt underdressed.
Wasn't fancy enough.
Yeah, but that's how it started.
Now you had the one case that I thought was really good. Because you couldn't talk about it for
Yeah, I wrote a joke.
exactly.
Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what part of it do you want, or do you want the whole thing?
Just go tell a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
So
the whole thing.
So
Yeah.
what ended up happening was somehow an AUSA got a hold of my information,
Mhm.
and it was through like an interpreter that I had mentored or something. Like because I'm part of like a bunch of like interpreting things, right?
Yeah.
And that interpreter was part of a company that they did virtual interpreting. And they were like, hey, we don't have anyone that has a TSI. Can you sign? Like, it was like really fast. They were like, can you sign this? We need this now, or we're going to lose this contract. And I was like, yeah, what is it? And they like said, hey, it's about this and this and this. And then I had to talk to the attorney, because the attorney was like, oh, like, it was like crazy the amount of like shit that I had to sign and things that I had to talk with them about. Like, hey, you can't talk about this for now. What ended up happening was they had a sicario. A sicario is basically like an assassin.
Assassin,
It's the best way that I can. It's a hitman, right?
Hitman. Yeah.
Assassins are cooler. It's a hitman, and he was on a hospital bed, and it was like he looked like fuck. You ever seen those pictures of dudes in concentration camps?
So it looked like a raisin. He was all dried up.
Dude, yeah, it was just bad. And he would move like this, and he had a burn mark that you could clearly see like on his neck. And I was like, okay, cool, no problem. And turns out he had some information about some gangs and some other stuff that I don't want to mention because I don't want them problems.
Yeah.
But he knew some stuff about some people, and he had documents. He had like a stack of documents. And I'm just interpreting this, and I'm there for like an hour. Coincidentally, that same night, I had a friend of ours that was in
Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica.
Yep.
And he was texting me that he was gonna go get a tattoo.
Yep.
While I'm interpreting for this person, because I would like, and then I text back without looking. And then I would look, there'd be a pause, that nobody would talk because they're taking notes. And I could like look at my phone real quick. And we head out, and like obviously I'm in this little wheel thing, right? And the guy's like, this was really good. This was amazing. It's like, I think we got everything we need. And I just like, it's like 11 o'clock at night, dude. I was so tired. And then Ray's paying me per hour too. And they were like, this is really good. What do you think, Mr. Interpreter? I go, the interpreter doesn't really have anything to say. The interpreter remains neutral. He goes, come on, man. He's like, I saw your background check. You were military and this and that. And I was like,
I am the interpreter.
I go, I'm the interpreter. He goes, and I was like, dude, you understand this is recorded, right? He goes, I'm well aware it's recorded. And I'm like, I mean, a good investigator should probably ask how he got here. And they all like looked at me like, oh, motherfucker. So they just walk in again. And I'm like, and you're like, hey, how did you make it? And he had his possessions.
They asked him about the scar too, didn't they?
No. So they asked him how he got here, and he had his belongings. He's in the hospital. He had his belongings like next to him, and I could see it. And it was just like clothes, like these leathery looking bags, and then like a bunch of documents, like a shit ton of documents. And he goes, "Oh, that's easy," and I'm telling you. He says, "Well, they tried to kill me." And he goes, how did they try to kill you? Well, they grabbed the wire and they put fire on it and they had me cuffed, but it was just one guy because he caught me off guard and blah, blah, blah. And he got behind me and he like had these, this not wire. It was like a
rope.
No, not a rope. It was like a metal bar, like a little bit of metal, like what you would use to
like a hanger.
Yeah. Like a hanger, right? Sort of like a hanger, right? Like a metal hanger.
Yeah.
And he like lit it on like he heated it somehow because he could tell, because he could feel like it was burning through him. And so he got his hands free and he grabbed it, and you look at his fingers and he had burn marks because he like broke the hanger, and then he got out and then he killed that dude. And then he took some of the dude's money and stuff. And then he says, I had a stash with like, I think like an eighth of Coke. And what I did was I started running towards the border with the documents in the 2 bags. And whenever I would get tired, I just do a bump. And they like immediately like start fucking, oh, we need this. And they start bringing in for residue or whatever. I imagine they found it because you could tell there was a lot of shit on it, but who knows? And they're like, oh, and I just ran and here I am. And they were like, you weighed in like, what was your normal weight? And I always exaggerate when I used to tell this joke. I'd be like, he lost like 150 pounds. He lost like 80 pounds. He lost like 80 pounds in the
but it only took
3 days.
3 days.
It took 3 days.
3 days.
He didn't sleep either. So he looked really, really, really bad. But that was like what happened. And then that night, my friend got 2 tattoos thanks to me. While I was doing also that, my friend got his tattoos and whatnot, and they were pretty good. But then he came back and he's like, you're a piece of shit. I can't believe you let me get tattoos while I was drunk. And I said, you're a paying customer. There was nothing that you did. If you want that, then put an amendment in our contract. So yeah, that's how that happened. Yeah.
So, and you did have a contract with the city?
So I had not a contract. I was like a 1099 guy, but
so you're a contractor.
Contractor, yeah. With not with the city itself, but like with the schools. So I used
Okay,
to
with
run
the
the
schools, okay.
contract with the Greene County schools.
Okay.
Yeah. So like a lot of kids got the shit beaten out of them because of me. A lot of kids, bro. Like a lot of kids got the
Pretty
shit.
sure it wasn't because of you, it was because of their
So like,
doing.
okay, so
Well, I know
here's,
there's this one particular incident which you're probably going to.
yeah. So you're talking about the kid who lied to the mom, was telling him that this meant this, and he was reversing it because he had really bad grades. Is that the one?
No, it was actually.
Which one?
Well, they
the
thought
note.
they thought the note was they were going.
Oh shit! I forgot about that. So yeah, so what happened was that I got called, and there was like a note between two young men, and well, two kids. They're fucking kids. They're kids,
Two
and
boys.
their moms are there, and it's two boys, and they go, well, we already put it through Google Translate, and they called the cops because the way that it roughly translated says, "I'm gonna fuck you up later." That if you put it on Google Translate, that's what it would say. And I can't remember, but I remember like she showed me the Google Translate. I go, first of all, you put it in the wrong order. Like it was so wild. Like it could have gone so much worse. So I walk in and the cops are there, and the cops are listening, and the moms are there, and the boys aren't saying shit. And I pretty much just went and I was like, hey, let me see the note. They're like, no, we got the translation. I go, no. You don't pay me to look at Google. You pay me to translate. So please give me the translation. And then when I looked at the note, it was that they were going to have sex later.
Yeah.
And I remember like I said it, and I'm just like, chill, I said it, and the moms don't get it. And then you can see it, like you can see in their face. Yeah. Like they start realizing like what's going on. And then one of them says, at least you're not a terrorist. And I was like, what a fucking measure. Like, what a fucking measure.
At least you won't be wearing vests somehow.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it. I think I had one with you one time.
You had a vest with her?
No. There was one situation that we can talk about it now. I think it was the Colombian kid.
Something with a pencil.
The kid who got no, it wasn't a pencil. He got stabbed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he stabbed somebody or something.
No, he got stabbed by a gang.
Yeah.
So what happened was one time were we at your mom's?
Probably, because
I think so.
That was the time mom heard you for the first time.
Yeah, and like her family didn't know either. Dude, you can't be on Tinder and be like, I'm an interpreter. What kind of interpreting? Human trafficking.
On Tinder.
Yeah, we didn't meet on Tinder. But like I'm saying is, you can't go on there and like be like, oh yeah, this. By the way, I'm a veteran and I have all these other issues, that I have to deal with every day. And it's like, oh, okay. Oh, by the way, like. It's really difficult to date when you do that type of stuff. Like it's really fucking difficult.
When you go on Tinder and you list all the reasons not to date you.
That should be one of them. They should have 100%. They should make a fucking site. God, that's $1 million idea. Eric.
It is.
It's like reasons not to date me. And that's it. That's all you get. You just get the reasons not to date someone.
You gave me all of them.
I did. I ended up telling her.
He laid it all out there.
Yeah. I told her everything. Like, she's the only woman I've ever been like 100% fucking honest with. Like 100% honest with. Like, I was like, listen, this is why I'm a piece of shit. And she was like, no, you're my piece of shit. And I'm like, you're fucking crazy. And yeah, by God, she is. But she's
no, I just think that's a good idea. If you all these reasons not to date.
Yeah.
And that way you can go like, this is the amount of crazy I can deal with.
Like, I like it.
Yeah.
Like,
this broken. I can handle that.
Yeah.
I can make him even more broken.
So what happened was that I had a company that this was like after like 2018, I think like 2009, 2020, probably. I had an attorney that he did asylum cases, and I did a ton of cases with that attorney. But again, it was like free because he was also doing it pro bono. So it was like, you don't get paid. But dude, I did probably like hundreds of cases. And one of the times, when he'd call me, he would, and the thing is, he would refer people to me, but because I wasn't in the state, people didn't want to use me.
Yeah.
So that was just like, it was like, oh, fuck, So then what ends up happening is one time he calls me and he's in a hospital and I'm at her parents'. So I go into like another room and I'm like, I was like, hey, I just need to go to work real quick. And lo and behold, it was the walls are very thin, and it was unfortunately a kid who had been stabbed, and he'd been raped a couple times to try to get out of a gang. And he was like he survived, thank God. But it was like really bad. And like I walk out of the room and Bridget's mom her mom just hugged me. She was like, "Oh my God, I never knew." And I was like, "Ah, fuck, now you gotta sign an NDA." And then like we told her, like, "Hey, this is what I do, this is why I'm so goofy, this is why, I'm like so careful with certain things, and like like this is why I'm weird."
But her being a nurse, she kind of understood it.
Yeah.
She was just in
Yeah.
shock, I think, that she was like, what the
She
fuck?
had seen bad shit, like he'd seen bad shit. So
Yeah.
she was kind of like, okay, this makes sense now. I understand.
I understand why you're so
She's
goofy.
acting this way.
Now, you don't have to say it, but
Mhm.
you stopped doing the child trafficking.
I did. No, I did.
And
I say that openly. Yeah, I did.
Okay, now
I did.
was it the last case that did it?
It
or
was. It
Okay.
was. Yeah, I've never told you the story. What happened is you remember Lori Lundberg, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Lori called me one day, which it's episode 2, I think, right? I think episode 2.
She was on your first couple episodes.
So it was
Yeah.
episode 2 that
Yeah.
we had her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lori calls me and she says, "Hey, we have this girl that she's in a basement. They let her out a couple hours a night, but they're holding it was like a crazy fucking situation,
Mhm.
like very crazy." And she was like, allegedly, she was like chained, right? And I say all of this allegedly because this was all being told to me secondhand. Like I didn't
Okay.
see it. I can tell you there's things that I've seen
Mhm.
like that. That's like, no, fuck you. I've seen that.
Yeah.
This was one of those things got told to me, later. So what ends up happening is somehow she ends up getting out and they get her to a center and Lori helps her and she's like, I got an interpreter. I got the guy for this.
Mhm.
And everybody's like, okay. And what ends up happening is she was like so malnourished. Like it was wild. And she was from Central America, so we could like understand each other pretty well.
Mhm.
And I was able to like, interpret very well.
Mhm.
And at that point, I had been doing this like for years, like I dissect all my cases and I'm like, okay, this word was said here. I didn't understand. It took me 4 seconds to say this word because I'll have like the way I take notes is like very,
Mhm.
you've seen my scribbles.
Yeah.
So
It's a form of shorthand.
yeah. So what ends up happening is someone from jujitsu ends up helping us to get her to a hospital.
Mhm.
And this person did not know that I did these cases. So they get read in, basically, they get told by Lori, this is the situation.
Mhm.
And the person's like, okay. And she was 5 months pregnant.
Mhm. And
She didn't know it.
Yeah.
She didn't know it. And that just like fucked me. Like, cause I was like, oh, they were like, my mind starts going to a negative place. Was like, oh, they were trying to sell the kid.
Yeah.
Cause she had like marks. Like you
On
can
her
tell when
arm.
someone's
Yeah.
been like cuffed
Especially
and
for a
stuff like
long
that for a
time.
while.
Yeah.
You can tell they had them on her feet. And that was one of those things that like I look at her, like I don't know what happened. But it was like after that, like I remember I came home and I just like cried. Like I just fucking cried because I was about to be a dad too at that point. And it just broke me because I was like, I can't do this because I already had a hard time too many times not wanting to put my hands on people because they would say like, people admit to fucked up shit. Like I had a dad that openly admitted to like selling and prostituting their kids and stuff and like bringing them from Central America and stuff like that.
For that
And
reason.
for that specific fucking reason. Like I translated emails, I translated letters, like I translated text messages, and I fucking seen it.
Mhm.
And I always had a fucking hard time, like not wanting to put my hands on them, like a really fucking hard time. Or like when someone would hit a kid, like I had a case that Amanda, one of my first interns, she puked because it was a domestic violence case that the woman's passport it was a crazy situation. Like
None of your cases were not crazy situations.
It was one of those things that the passport was being held and like some things were said that it was he said, she said, but then he ran her leg over and then broke her leg in 3 pieces.
Oh,
and in court, they had video because they have it on video. And then they had the pictures at the hospital of the compound fracture.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at it and just like interpreting it like nothing. And like my intern goes out and puke.
Yeah.
And then she came back in like a fucking boss. And like even the attorney's looking at it and he's like, bro, like, how are you not? And I was like, I've seen that before. Like we had a soldier, he fell during a rock march by and it just popped out.
Yeah.
Had another one, their ankle like floated weird. And she's just looking at me like, oh, that's so horrible that you're okay with that. And I was like, oh my God, what do you mean? I'm not okay with it. It's just, we're doing a job. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here to provide a
It's
service.
not being okay with something.
Yeah, but the thing was, is to an extent I was like, it didn't bother me as much. And that's not cool. When you see some of the things that like people like me have seen and like, some of the shit that you've seen too, like it's not okay to be cool with it because that means you're desensitized. And like when you're desensitized to it, like that's when like the Jordan Peterson thing of like keep staring at the abyss, but you're in the fucking abyss, my man.
Yes.
Like you are in the abyss when you're like okay with it. You're in that abyss walking like nothing bothers you.
Yeah.
And that's where I was for a very long fucking time.
Yeah, just to reiterate, most or all these cases were actually in Missouri.
In Missouri. Yeah. Yeah.
In
Missouri.
In Springfield.
Missouri
mostly.
and in Springfield.
In Springfield.
Yes, in Springfield.
Okay.
Yeah. Springfield.
So just so everybody knows.
Springfield. So there was a division.
This was in Springfield.
Davie County,
This was
Branson
before even
The whole Epstein thing blew up.
Yeah.
before the Epstein,
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
this is before Biden. You were doing
Before, yeah. This is way before. This was like 3
This-
presidents ago, probably.
exactly.
Two,
So this
three.
is. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this
the-
isn't something
The movie
new.
came out, and they're like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
this."
This
When-
is
You're trying to piggyback, motherfucker.
No.
Yes and no.
And no.
I've been afraid to talk about it until now, but now it's something that needs to be brought up and people need to know about it. And
I've always wondered how you felt when you found out because you like stood there in shock and like the first thing you said to me was, I don't understand how you don't have a headache and you're doing that in 2 languages at the same time. Like she understood like the level of brain capacity that it
Yeah.
requires, but I never really knew like how you felt because like you started learning
Well,
about
he did have a headache.
I had the headache. I was just trying to listen, but not to be cheesy, or I just showed me what type of person you were. Showed me that you do.
horrible human being.
He says he's a horrible human being.
I'm a
but
horrible human being.
horrible human beings don't have a heart and don't want to help.
Could have
people.
stolen it from somebody.
You stole somebody's heart. Oh,
Stop! Don't lie to me.
uh,
It was weird, man. It was like really weird trying to like be honest about it too. Because like for the longest time, it was also really depressing. And like she kind of knew there was a lot of stuff I couldn't talk about. So there were times that I'd come back and I'd just sit outside and stare at a fire.
Yeah.
Like for hours.
Yeah.
For just fucking hours. And
Oh,
I just
yeah.
smoke cigars. Like that's it. And like no one at jujitsu knew either. So like the people from jujitsu, they didn't know until recently.
Yeah.
So a lot of those guys were like, oh my God, he's just so goofy.
he's just this goofy guy.
He's just so
Yeah.
weird and dumb. And then it was like,
Oh wait,
oh, bless your fucking heart. Like my black belt didn't know until like a couple years ago.
But I just want to reiterate for everybody that this was happening
Yeah,
before
in Missouri.
all this in
Before all
Missouri,
this,
in
yeah.
Spring, Missouri, before
Mhm.
anybody even considered the border child trafficking or anything.
Oh, I can tell you stories about some stuff about the border that I can
Oh.
talk about now. What do you want to know?
Yeah, because you did border stuff.
I did.
too.
Well,
I'm just-
I volunteered to go down at
Yeah.
one point
I-
into
I
one of the
just-
detention facilities.
I just found it remarkable. People don't think stuff like this is happening
happens here.
in their backyard.
No,
No,
2 weeks
mean-
ago,
I mean,
no,
if you go to Nebraska, you're going to find
Yeah.
the same thing.
a
it-
month ago, they found a girl that was in Texas. They found her in St. Louis in a hotel.
she'd
I
been
didn't hear
tra-
about that one.
She'd been
She'd been
trafficked.
trafficked from
Oh,
Yeah,
from
I
Texas.
can. Yeah, I don't have my phone on
I
me.
think Mexico
from-
to Texas.
No. Oh yeah, from
To
Mexico
St.
to
Louis.
Texas to St. Louis. I think allegedly, right?
Okay.
But that's the thing is like, dude, we have a comedian friend. I'm not gonna say his name.
Yeah.
But he called me one night, and he's like, I have a girl that just approached me and says she's being trafficked, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And like nothing ended up happening because the cops couldn't do anything because he didn't know what the cops would need for them to go, okay, now we have something, like we have enough things, you know?
Yeah.
So like
exactly.
that's the thing. I have another friend who's a comedian in Texas, not Danny, Because immediately someone will say it's Danny. He's always on the
It's
podcast.
Danny, yeah.
This time
he
it's not
called
Danny.
me. He called me and he goes, I have a girl here that just told me she's being trafficked. And I go, okay, this is the protocol, you know, do this. And sure as fuck, cops got called and they fucking got the dude. They fucking caught the dude in the hotel.
Okay.
Like hotel people are crazy. And the thing with the border is that you have to understand is like, if you've never been down to the border, go fucking visit. Go fucking look at it. Down in Texas, at least, right?
I mean, that's not really
It's-
a vacation
It's not a
spot that I
vacation
wanna
spot,
go to,
but if you look at
but-
it, you'll understand like how fucking wild it is. The amount of people that are trying to come. So it's like insanely difficult. And guess what? Human beings are creative as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had a case where these girls came from Texas, right? And they were here in Missouri. And someone had asked them during an interview, they asked them how they got here because they were in Texas.
Mhm.
And they said, what we did is the coyote, he gave us an address and we memorized the address.
Yeah.
So we knew like how to get there. And then what happened was we ended up at some point, they were moving them or something and they escaped. And then they like stole money from somebody's purse because they could like, and dude, these kids could like pickpocket, like fuck around. Like there'd be times that I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And she'd be looking at me and she'd take my fucking pen.
Mhm.
And I was like, motherfucker, like they fucking knew what they were doing. And what they did was they just got here because they had memorized the address. They stole some money and they got on a bus and that was it. And then they got here and then they called their parents and that was it. Like that was it, bro. That was it. Oh, I'm on vacation seeing my tia. Okay. And like the coyote told them like the script, they had a script and the kids knew the script and the kid told the attorney. It's like, oh, this is how I got here. And she's like, what was the crossing like? I had a kid that they drank water from like a part. There's like a part that there's like a body of water there. I don't know. And the entrance of it starts at the US
Uh-huh.
and it's got just dead bodies on it. And that travels all the way down. So people drink from that. And by the time that they get to the edge, they realize they just drank probably like dead body fluid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So like that fucks up your stomach a lot. Like a lot of times when they come over, they have a lot of medical issues.
Oh, definitely.
Some people don't. Some people they can make the trek. They train. There's people who train for it to move here. Like I had a guy that he was here for 30 years and he told the same story. And this was 30 years ago. He trained for it. And then what happened was he got it, jumped, got fake papers, fake social security. You know why they caught him?
What?
They caught him because he got greedy and he tried to get a different name with the same social security that he had.
Oh,
But he'd been here for 30 years, had tax returns. I translated all of that. Translated all of it. Yeah, tax returns and everything, bro.
wow.
Yeah.
I know back in the day.
Yeah.
it was
Yeah. I
a
never
lot-
told you about that one. That's why I'm looking at your face and you're like, holy shit. Like, yeah, bro. Yeah.
Back in the day, it was a lot easier. Like 30 years ago. If
Fucking
you,
easy as shit.
I'm just saying, you find a birth certificate, you don't need the death certificate. You just need the birth certificate.
Yeah. The thing with the border
But
also is like,
that was like 30 years ago. You could actually
Yeah.
make IDs.
yeah. The thing with the border also is there's a lot of like those kids that their parents are just sending them and then they'll come in and like pick them up.
Mhm.
Most people don't know that. A lot of the parents, like their kids will come and their parents are asylees and stuff like that. And everybody knows they're paying a coyote.
Oh,
But
of course,
what people don't know is that you have to pay them a certain amount for them to help you cross safely. Because a
And
lot
you
of
have to
times
pay
what
them in
they'll-
advance too.
they have to pay in advance, correct? And these payments are done like in a variety of ways.
Mhm.
So it's like it's everybody knows about this, bro. The thing is like
Yeah.
most people like that aren't in that environment, obviously, but it's a very well-known thing that that's what they do. It's not any different like from what they did during like post World War I and stuff like that, right? Like post World War II. I'm
Two, I
sorry,
was
when
gonna
we
say
started,
two.
I'm sorry, World
Yeah.
War II, when we started taking like asylees. Like
Yeah.
Tommy Chong had said that a lot of those kids that were there, they were in Canada.
Mhm.
So like a lot of times what happened is there was a lot of people who snuck in. There's stories about stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's nothing new that happens. The problem is that there's also
People
a
are know-
lot of
People are
people.
knowing are more willing to believe it now, it seems like.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't think
Because
so.
before, I can remember going down to Tijuana,
Mhm,
and it was easy to turn. Of course, I wasn't looking for it either.
mhm.
I was going down to Tijuana for the tequila and the
Yeah,
donkey
yeah,
show
yeah.
and stuff. But anyway, well, I didn't believe him. I said, that's not real. Anyway,
Yeah, I didn't
it-
believe that until I asked someone that
and
had
then
gone to
and it
Mexico.
turns out it is true. But
Yeah, people pay money for that, bro. It's wild.
and
It's wild. But
so I
human
didn't
beings will
see
do is
any of
wild.
that when I was down there. I mean, Tijuana's a wild place. I didn't see any of that. But on the other hand, I wasn't even looking for it though.
Yeah, it's right in your face too. Yeah, it's especially like not. I don't know about Tijuana, but I know other places that it's like really in your face and like people know about it because the cartel just runs it. I mean, everything is just about control at the end of the day. That's why I always tell people like one of the things that people ask me is like they don't understand how people do that. I'm like, because you have to think about like unfortunately, and I had a guy that said this. I had a guy who was a coyote that I got to sit in an interrogation,
Uh-huh.
and he was like, why, dude? Like, these are kids, these are people. He goes, it's just business. It's the same way that you would do with cattle. And I
Yeah.
was just like,
Kids aren't cattle.
like when he said that, like that, he just said it so suave that I was just like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you, my man? Like, you are sick as fuck.
It's like when you talk about, you get desensitized because I
You
bet
you
I
do,
bet when
man.
he first started, he didn't think that.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know. I remember that they didn't pay him a lot of money. Like per person, they didn't pay him a lot of money. And that was one of the reasons why he flipped.
Oh,
Like I remember that. I remember that because I was sitting there in the fucking interrogation room.
because you have to be you'd have to expose that for quite a bit to be that desensitized.
I don't know, man. I don't know. My first encounter, did I ever tell you my first encounter with it?
I don't think you told me the
My
first.
first encounter with it was in Iraq. When I was in Iraq, we had a problem with our IPs. Our Iraqi police were being assassinated.
Mhm.
And when I say assassinated, like assassinated is they were getting hit in the dome, like at point blank,
Like right in the temple.
like
Just
right in the fucking temple. And by the time we got there, the heat would like fuck with the body, so it was really difficult for CID and stuff like that to like check it. But like
yeah,
we ended
time
up
of
getting
death,
like yeah, but we ended up getting like ballistics and stuff like that. And then after like a couple of weeks, we started seeing the pattern of where the bodies would pop up, and we were like, oh, he's coming in through these hours, so it's a checkpoint. He's coming in and out. You just don't catch him leaving; you catch him coming in to the checkpoint.
Yeah. Okay.
So we sat one day, man, and like we had like a traffic jam there, and we saw this kid like he was just eyeballing us weird, and like I just got like a weird feeling. I called for a check on, it was like a blue, it looked like an old school Oldsmobile car, but it wasn't. It was like some weird piece of shit that they put together.
Mhm.
And the dude just like eyeballed me, like he just wanted like to fight me, and I was like, that's weird. So then when I was like, Habibi, and then he like put his hands down, and that's when I like, all right, now we're gonna fucking have a conversation in a different way. And when we pulled him out of the vehicle, he had a 45. So we ran that 45. And was it 45 9 mil? I can't remember, man. It was a handgun. It was a handgun.
It's probably a 9 mil. I would.
It was over 12 years ago. I'm not gonna remember.
Okay.
And it was a handgun, and later we found out that it was him who was killing our IPs. And like I never knew why he didn't draw me. Like I never did. But dude, I think if you see a brown dude with a 249 pointed at you, like fucking like you are not gonna fuck around, because I'm gonna light that car up and everything behind that car.
Oh yeah.
And Sergeant Charles was there with that. And like I remember when they sat him in the room, he pretended like he didn't know English, but he had a bunch of different passports. And then I never forget this, the interrogator said, well, we're just gonna have to bring the dogs. And he's like, Habibi, my friend, we do not need to bring the dogs. And he started fucking talking English. He's like, oh, motherfucker, you're fucking playing. And I just remember like sitting there, like they started talking to him, and I was there because we had to take notes and shit.
Yeah.
And I had the nicest handwriting. And he's like, oh, I'm 16. And he's like, oh, all praise Allah, I'm going to kill you guys and this and that. And he had like a Dragoon sniper. He had an AK. He had some other stuff too in the car, some bomb making material and shit. And he's like, I'm the one who kills all those fucking IPs. I killed 15 of them. So what? He's like, praise to Allah. And I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, and he's like, oh, I started this when I was very young. I killed my first dude when I was like 6. And I was just like, what the fuck, bro? Like, why? Like, how could you do that to a fucking kid? Like, It's wild to me, man. It's just wild to me. That was like my first experience ever. Like that stuck with me for fucking years. Because I just couldn't believe that he would just walk. And dude, you could tell too, like some of them were caught sleeping by the way that their body laid and stuff like that. Some of them were caught sleeping. But still, man, like for you to like point blank shoot 2 people like that, like that's cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Like that's cold-blooded as
Sleeping or
fuck.
not. I mean,
Yeah, man, it's wild, dude. But that was like my first experience with like trafficking, because like the interrogator came out and he's like, we're gonna call this agency and this because this is
'Cause we-
also a trafficking thing. And I'm like, a trafficking? That's when they explained to me like children of war is what it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because we would see we went through Suez Canal and we'd see the tanks that we bombed.
holy shit. But yeah, man.
They weren't
Yeah.
still smoking. I mean, it'd been more dramatic if they were, but no,
They weren't on fire or anything.
they were not. They were put out by the time we got
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
What else
they
you
were-
got for me?
So-
I know you have a ton more. What else? You
Well,
got?
yeah. Well, then after because you had issues with the school, with the Greene County school,
We had our differences.
and then you started met up with I don't know if I can say his name, but you started teaching.
Yeah, so that's when I met Edgar through like a networking thing.
Mhm.
And like I started just talking to him, and Edgar Dago, which we've had him on the podcast.
Yeah.
And you know, Edgar, he's like, oh man, I teach these classes. He's like, do you know about this and this and this? I go, yeah. And he's like, could you teach a 3-hour class on it? I go, yeah. And he's like, really? I go, yeah. What he didn't know, and like I explained to him a couple months ago, was when I was in the army, it like really wasn't fun. Like my 5 years in the army was like very fucking fast. So like I graduated basic training in AIT and I went straight to Iraq.
Mhm.
Like 30 days later, 15 months in Iraq, I came back, started working the road. Did that. Oh, hey, if you have a day off, you have to go teach how to shoot. Oh, you have a day off. Hey, you're going to go and you're going to teach these new guys maneuvering through a target with vehicles. What happens if we get attacked on the TC side? What happens when we get attacked on the driver's side?
Okay.
Okay, you have a mass casualty effect. Oh, hey, you need to go for a week and we're going to pull you and you're going to go do combat lifesaver course.
So
which is
are you
40
saying in the
hours.
military you don't get a lot of days off? Is that what you're telling us?
Bro, listen, I know that there's people in the world that probably haven't had a day off, but I don't know how many people in the world would kill for a fucking day off. Like, you understand how crazy it is in the military that if you do events, like I remember when I did my German badge, they were like, hey, whoever gets the German badge gets a 4-day pass.
Uh-huh.
I was like, bro, I'm gonna make it some way, somehow. I'm getting that badge. And by God, I got my 4-day pass, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
4 days in the hospital, but 4 days.
oh yeah, because I
It
lost all
still
the
counts.
yeah, I
Still
forgot because I
counts.
lost all the skin on my feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't walk. Most people don't know that story either. I'm really
Yeah.
embarrassed about that story. My dad loves telling that story to people. Like, because I called, I told you that, right? Yeah. I did the German badge years ago, and when I had like half to 3/4 of a mile left, like my feet were just bleeding, and I called my dad, and he goes, just push that bitch. And by God, I fucking did. But I woke up in the hospital.
Yeah, because I remember it's like you're holding your ID up. It's like, did I pass? And then
Yeah, that's what
when you
people
passed
told me
out, I
that.
think.
Yeah, like Joseph Havlik,
Yeah.
he took me to the hospital.
Mhm.
He was the one because they said that I was running, and I was like my eyes were like not there. It was like gloss,
Uh-huh.
like there you couldn't see anything. And I just kept walking with the paper, kept running with the paper, and then they stopped me, and I kept running, and then I just shut off. And then they looked at the trail of blood from my boots.
Mhm.
They were like, holy shit. And like Joseph Havlik grabbed me and he threw me in the back. And he said, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. Because I had a heat stroke. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Like I had a heat stroke. And he said, you're gonna be all right, buddy. You're gonna be all right. And he tells me this. Oh, and then I came to like, I think like 8-9 minutes later.
Mhm.
And like, but I don't know how long I was gone though. That's the thing. I have no clue.
Yeah, you could have been gone that whole half mile.
I could have been gone for the rest of that night, because I remember hanging up with Dad and I was looking at the sky and I kept saying in my head, I just have to take the next step.
Yeah.
That's it. I just have to take the next step and I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
But I kept saying that for like 3 miles. So it just fucking sucked. But yeah, I showed you where you were like,
Yeah.
bro, why the fuck did you do that? This hill is
Now this is it in the summertime too.
Yeah, it was like June or something like that. I have my paper. I
Yeah,
can tell
so
you,
it wasn't like
yeah.
it wasn't in the fall. It was
No, it was 18 miles.
yeah.
18 fucking miles. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
just
that's
saying
fucking
it
fun.
was it last week? It was 99 degrees for like 3 or 4 days in a row.
Fucking hot as shit.
Yeah.
Fucking hot as shit.
I don't know how hot it was you there. It's fucking hot in Missouri. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
It and
But yeah, man.
yeah.
That's how I got my gaffet. I actually won a tournament of jujitsu because someone said they'd pay my weight in sushi. And they're like, you have to rear naked choke the guy. I fucking rear naked choke that guy, motherfucker.
You have to really like raw fish to do that.
I fucking love sushi. I fucking love sushi, Eric. Fucking love sushi. Like
Yeah,
I will do
cook
some
stuff
shady.
because I don't know if you've heard of this stuff called parasites.
No, no, shut up.
Be on that one.
Yeah,
I fucking I
got is a veggie roll.
I couldn't even do that.
Well, I ate one. That was it.
Yeah, it was like it's the textural. Too many different textures in
she
one
won't-
thing. I can't
she
do
won't
it.
try it.
I ate one. I
she
had a little.
won't try it.
Well, I put soy sauce on it to pretend I was Korean, but it didn't work.
You got anything for me? I feel like you have questions for me.
No, not really. I mean, probably have questions later, but I don't have anything right now.
No, I just
I'm not-
appreciate you doing this and supporting me because I don't think a lot of like you've seen how many interpreters I've mentored and like a lot of them end up in divorce when they do these cases because they just can't tell their spouses. And like you like when you found out, you were like, "Aw, you're so broken. I love you." I'm like, ah, god
I
damn
like
it.
broken stuff.
Puzzle.
I like puzzles. Oh god.
So
Glue. I'll put it back together.
Yeah, when you first met me, I was at the end of doing the cases.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's why I would always stay. That's why I would always stay at the club late, just like I'd have a drink, and I'd wait like an hour and a half or 2 hours to
Yeah.
fucking leave
Yeah.
because I don't want to drive, after I drank. And like no one knew,
Yeah.
no one ever knew, bro. No one. I kept it like so fucking tight to the chest,
Yeah.
like for so long, and it just fucking sucked because it
Yeah,
was like.
'cause especially if you're married and you can't tell the other person.
Well, it was like it wasn't even like married because like married, I would have been like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Like, I don't have an issue. But it's like when you're dating somebody and you're terrified that they're gonna run away, because that's a pretty fucking terrifying thing. Like most
Well, that's
women
true.
wouldn't put
That's
up with it.
true.
Most women would be like, oh my God, how do you not kill these people? Or like, oh my God, how like that's a question I get asked a lot. Is like, how did you not kill these people? I'm like, I have to trust the process.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, 99% of the time that I saw, bro, when you got hit with trafficking, you're fucked. You're fucked. Like fucked with a capital FUCKED, my man.
Yeah,
Like
the only time that you get any type of leniency as trafficking is if your last name's Epstein, I think.
Jesus Christ, Eric.
Because I think he got parole the first time.
Oh yeah, the first time, yeah. And that's another thing, man. Like when
But
the whole Epstein thing
anybody
happened-
else would not get parole.
Yeah.
That wouldn't even be on the table.
Yeah.
There's like you got 5 years or whatever the minimum is.
it's federal time, so you're not gonna get out. Like you're gonna
You're
get
not
killed.
Yeah.
Especially if
exactly.
it's kids. Look at what happened to the gymnast. That
Oh,
not
yeah.
gymnast, the
Not the
doctor that
gymnast.
got stabbed. I laughed my ass off when I read that. I'm sorry. I laughed out loud. I was like, ah! Like I literally was like, ah! I read it. I was like, ah! Like
Well, federal prison,
damn,
that's pretty much a death sentence because they don't
You're
put up with that.
fucked.
Yeah.
you're fucked. You're
I mean,
fucked.
even though it's full of rapists and murderers, they
They
see
have
stuff and
standards. How
they
dare
still
you?
have standards.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have killed their wife and their grandma.
So
but
this is
But you can't touch kids.
you can't touch. We have this one rule.
so this is the other thing that people don't understand, right? Is like when people talk to me, and I have a problem with that too, is like when people talk to me about this, like people ask stupid questions. And,
Oh,
and
yeah,
yes,
of
there
course
is
they
such
do.
thing as stupid questions.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, did you ever see a kid die? Or did you ever like, yeah, I have, just not from the trafficking stuff. Like I've seen it from the military.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
people ask like the dumbest questions. I think the dumbest questions I've had asked was did you ever see like it was something along the lines of like, did you ever see somebody die and like you not do anything because you were interpreting? Because they took like to the extreme what I said about me just being ethical. And not intervening. I'm
Yeah.
like, first of all, the only way I intervene is if life, sight, or limb. That's called exigent circumstances.
Yeah.
Like if I see one of those things, like I stop immediately. Like you need to stop.
Yeah.
Like immediately, and anybody should. Good Samaritan laws protect you and other shit. Get with an attorney. This isn't legal advice.
None of this is legal advice.
Yeah. This is all fake too. Yeah. Anyways,
Fake news.
We just need numbers.
yeah. Piggyback. You gotta piggyback.
We're piggybacking. Yeah.
But no, that's the thing is like, it's really terrifying to like see it happen in your own backyard, because it puts you in a position where it's like, well, fuck, like now I have to like have an extra, like for me at least, right?
Yeah.
It puts me in a position where it's like, oh, now I have to be extra careful with people, because now I have to like read too much into you, because I don't want that to happen to my kid. Because if that happened to my kid, the movie Taken is going to be looked upon like as a bedtime story for kids compared to what I'll do.
Oh,
And not even like what I'll do, like the people who love my kid will do.
oh yeah.
Like that's the thing is like, it's just wild to me, or any kid that's near me. Like if I have a position where I can help someone, like fuck yes, I am.
Yeah.
But it's just wild to me how like we're so ignorant about it. Like we're
No.
just like, even when I teach the class.
Yeah,
Like-
it's just amazing how many people doesn't think that we're in rural America and we're somehow isolated.
Yeah, like a lot of people are like that. Kind of like when people ask me for my fucking green card.
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Let's
it's
not
your
talk
fault. You
about
showed
the
him your birth
DMV.
certificate in Spanish, so
Yeah, it's not like I'm a fucking translator and interpreter with credible credentials, like pretty good. I'm sorry, not credible. That's stupid. The word credential is credible. With
yeah.
good
I
credentials.
know what you
like,
meant. I know
like-
English is your second
Yeah.
language, so
We
But
can
yeah.
interpret your language.
We can interpret. What else you got for me?
I got Richard speak down. So
What else you want to know, Eric?
So when you're doing your next class, and where can they sign up?
That's
So that's a great question. Let me pull my handy dandy. Oh, that's not
my
mine.
phone.
That's not,
Pull up your
You
calendar real quick.
Don't have my phone.
So the next class I'll be teaching with transinterpreting. If you go to transinterpreting.com, or if you email info@transinterpreting.com, you can sign up for the class. I'll be doing the next live class either the 19th or the 20th of August. I want to do it before we go back to school. That way,
Okay.
like people have like some things that they can look for and stuff like that. And like I hate to say this because it sounds weird, but I enjoy teaching the class because people really listen. And I've structured the class in such a way, like I've shown the class here.
Mhm.
There's people who have the fucking class, they don't realize it. I've shown it to like, I've structured it in a way where it's like now open to like the public. Because in the beginning I did it for like interpreters, which there's still like the majority of people who come are interpreters.
Yeah.
There's a few civilians, but like that's the thing is like and this is what I tell people, man, like why you should take the class. Because I've had people ask me, like, if you've seen the movie Sound of Freedom, or if anything that you've heard in this episode from two people that are very credible and very amazing people in my life, and it's something that you want to know about or learn about, by all means sign up. Because I know I showed you the class,
Yeah.
and there was like a bunch of shit that you were like, huh.
I didn't even think about
Yeah,
that.
like you've seen the class and you
Yeah.
were like, what the hell? Like this is
Well,
a lot.
it's not something I'm
Yeah.
familiar with. Stuff
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things to look for, man. But you can sign up with ask info@transinterpreting.com, and then that's when we'll have the class. That'll
'Cause-
probably be it.
Yeah, and you still have your Facebook with Language Ninja. And
Yeah, my Instagram is language_ninja. I'm the fucking language ninja. And then my Facebook is Richard Aviles. Like Richard Aviles. Richard Aviles. Richard Aviles. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the one with the cartoon. You'll see the Pokeballs and the Digivice.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you want to see us live too, corner pocket comedy every Thursday. There's an open mic. Eric and I will be there.
Mhm.
Unless something happened
Yeah,
in
Springfield or Billiards,
Billiards in
right there.
Springfield,
Yeah.
Missouri. They have it's a great open mic, man. People go there to play with stuff, but the level of that is going up a lot. And like,
Yeah.
it's good to support the locals too, man. Like if you don't have anything to do on a Thursday, just get there at 7:30, get a few drinks. They always have a drink special.
Yes.
And you can just hang out with the comics too. Comics love that, even though they say they don't. They love
Yeah,
that. Corner pocket comedy on Thursdays.
Yes,
Every Thursday at
absolutely.
8 p.m.
What
Well-
most comics don't tell you is they hate people. So
That's true. That's true. So thanks, Bridget, for coming by.
No problem.
And thanks, Richard, for coming by.
I appreciate you
Yeah.
doing this. It was enlightening.